Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Thursday's edition of Alaska Weather on the 23rd day of September 2021. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Starting out with the hazardous weather graphics. Now we got a winter weather advisory out for the Alaska Range there for tonight through Friday and through Friday night, actually out until 6 a.m. Saturday morning. And that's for snow and blowing snow at times. Snowfall of 6 to 8 inches expected over the next day or so. And with winds gusting to 30 miles an hour, that'll create blowing snow and reduce visibilities to half mile or less at times. And then also there's a winter weather advisory out, for tonight until midday Friday for, you barely see it there, it's the Anchorage Hillside and South Fork of Eagle River, and that's for anywhere from 4 to 8 inches of snow. Of course, at higher elevations we'll see the most. Lower elevations down toward East Anchorage, probably just a mixture of rain and snow. So the amounts will vary greatly there for the South Fork Eagle River and East Anchorage there, depending on your elevation. And that's out again for tonight into about midday Friday. From there, no other watches warnings out anywhere, so on to satellite imagery, and you can see a pretty good fetch of moisture streaming up into the southeast coast and the North Gulf Coast, with low pressure tracking east of Kodiak Island and up in toward the southern Kenai Peninsula, and that spreading wind and rain up into the southeast interior. Gulkana carrying moderate snow in the Copper River Basin there. At 3 p.m. this afternoon, they've picked up about half an inch of new snow. Otherwise, much lighter amounts, just clouds spread in over the east central interior north of the Alaska Range there, and also clouds along the Arctic coast with weak systems affecting that area and occasional light flurry conditions up there, nothing significant. And otherwise, winds pretty strong, storm force winds on the North Gulf Coast with that system. With gusts to 62 miles an hour at Middleton Island, and Homer had gusts of 40 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour during the day today out of the northwest, and Kenai, Nikiski, gusts 30 to 35 miles an hour, and Elmendorf Air Force Base receiving north to northeast winds of 30 miles an hour this afternoon. But winds along the southeast coast, the more normally windier locations there, Cape Decision, Cape Spencer, had gusts of 50 to 55 miles an hour. So had gales along the outer coastline, and rain over the interior areas. Heaviest in the north, Yakutat 12-hour amount about 3/4 of an inch. By comparison, Juneau had 1/4 of an inch of rainfall, and Petersburg 4/10 of an inch. Otherwise, pretty lighter amounts of rain. Port Heiden, the exception, out over the southwest. Enough overwater trajectory there with a band of clouds swinging down out of Togiak Bay, brought 3/10 of an inch of precipitation there. It's pretty localized. Everywhere else had much less or nothing at all. But mostly cloudy over the Bering Sea there. Another system kind of dropping down east-southeastward from the western Bering, and system just spreading some clouds up to the Adak and Shemya area, with the main bulk of the moisture and rain-producing clouds still to the south of the area. On the chart today, there's that rather deep low into the Gulf of Alaska south of Resurrection Bay this afternoon. Tight gradient around that, as I mentioned, picking them winds up Cook Inlet, western Alaska Range passes down across the Alaska Peninsula, with gusts of 40 to 45 miles an hour across the peninsula today, and diminishing winds there for the Fox Islands with increasing sunshine. You see some numerous breaks in the cloudiness there over the eastern Aleutian areas, but back into the clouds of the Pribilofs, and then the weak low pressure over the northwest Bering Sea bringing some showers. Actually, the western Aleutians have precipitations from the storm off to the southwest, with the shower activity with that trough farther to the north there, but a few scattered showers in toward Adak and Atka will develop into a rain here this evening and overnight tonight. Otherwise, that front right up along the coast, storm force winds on the North Gulf Coast today, gale force winds along the Panhandle tonight. That moves inland and kind of drags across the southern Panhandle there, really moving slowly, but pushes inland to the north. Rain will continue, but rainfall rates will diminish. Definitely winds will diminish as well, with the front moving into Canada there. The low pressure area tracks into southern Prince William Sound, and another weaker low tracks up to just east of the border there, over the eastern interior. So look for a mixture of rain or snow, southeast Alaska. Of course, snow with elevation, and the farther south you are toward the coastline, that's going to be in just plain rain. Heavy at times tonight, especially for the panhandle, diminishing late tonight, and clearing out over Kodiak Island, and diminishing rain and snow showers for the western Alaska range. Probably will continue in toward morning. Low clouds, fog, and flurries in store for the Arctic coast and North Slope, but winds will be light with weak high pressure right over the North Slope. Eastern Bering Sea, not too bad. Some breaks. Weak low brings a chance of moisture to St. Lawrence Island in the form of rain or snow, but it'll be light. Winds will be light as well. And winds will stay pretty light over the southern Bering Sea and the Aleutian. Some of that moisture, that system to the south, sneaking up, bringing some light rain, fog, and drizzle to Adak, Atka, possibly as far east as Nikolsky there on Unmak Island. And then for the day on Friday there, we've got still periods of rain in the Panhandle, southwest flow with a low hanging back, southwest Prince William Sound there near Resurrection Bay, or Kane's Head, give or take there, the location. So northwest winds will begin to clear it out, looking for maybe a mostly sunny day, especially in the afternoon there for Kodiak Island. Bristol Bay looking good, mostly clear, and that extends northward there, right up to the western Brooks Range and along mountains. Pick up the clouds out toward the Yukon Delta coast, Seward Peninsula, chance of moisture, maybe for the south coast of the Seward Peninsula. And Pribilof Island's a little bit better chance of some light rain and drizzle with a weak trough there. Scattered isolated showers at best, central and eastern Aleutians, maybe the Alaska Peninsula, but not too bad. Possible sunshine as well. Otherwise, less rain, slowly diminishing there for the North Gulf Coast, and a mixture of precipitation over the eastern interior to the eastern Arctic coast. That'll be mostly in the form of snow up there. And moving on to the Saturday outlook, much drier over the interior Alaska. Still some scattered showers down toward the North Gulf Coast into the northern Panhandle, scattered snow showers there up toward the Yukon Flats from north of the White Mountains up to the southern slopes of the Brooks Range. Rain and snow showers still a possibility there for the Selawik Valley, Kotzebue, Seward Peninsula, St. Lawrence Island, down right along the, probably off the Yukon Delta coast there, Nunivak Island. Then rain showers and breezy conditions for Atka Island eastward to the Fox Islands. Will be a little wetter there. Possible gusts 35 miles an hour. And late in the day, winds swing around to the southeast and begin to pick up the small craft advisory levels ahead of that front there for Shimmy and Attu. Otherwise, light winds and partly sunny skies out over the central Aleutian areas. And moving on to the low temperatures for tonight, upper 40s to lower 50s for the Panhandle under mild southwesterly flow, near freezing for the Copper River Basin, otherwise in the 30s for south central Alaska, mid to upper 20s Kuskokwim Valley or areas west of the Alaska Range, including northeast Bristol Bay, near 40 for Kodiak Island, lower 40s for the North Gulf Coast. Now highs tomorrow, 40 to 45 about covers it, closer to 40 Copper River Basin and the Kuskokwim Valley. Lower to mid-40s for Bristol Bay, lower 50s Kodiak Island, in the 50s for the Panhandle. And for lows, Saturday morning, upper 20s for Copper River Basin, lower 20s for the Kuskokwim Valley, call it 20, 25, 25 to 30 for Bristol Bay, right near the frost point for Kodiak State Airport there. Otherwise, 30, 35 south central Alaska, and lower to mid-40s for the Panhandle. Highs Saturday afternoon, near 40 for the Copper River Basin, down toward Valdez is lower 40s for the Kuskokwim Valley, mid-40s Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, 40 to 45 south central Alaska, upper 40s to lower 50s for the Panhandle, except upper 50s there around Craig and Klawock. And for the Arctic coast, lows in the 20s tonight, teens for the Brooks Range, and then 25 to 30 in the central interior to mid-30s out toward St. Lawrence Island. And highs for tomorrow, upper 20s to mid-30s for the Arctic coast, North Slope, lower 20s there into the Brooks Range, south of the mountains in the 30s, and lower 40s St. Lawrence Island, but in the 30s for the Seward Peninsula, followed by lows in the 20s for the most part, Brooks Range area, higher elevations, Arctic Village, Anatuvik, dropping into the lower to mid-teens, otherwise in the 20s, 30s to above freezing there out toward the Bering Strait, followed by highs lower 40s St. Lawrence Island, and near 40 in the central interior, Kobuk Valley to the Yukon Flats, mid to upper 30s, 20s to the Brooks Range, lower 30s in the Arctic coast, out to the southwest, lows in the 40s, mid 30s along the coastline there, highs 45 to 50, followed by lows The next morning, Saturday morning, lower 40s. Pribilofs and the Aleutians, highs near 50 for Saturday.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
And the North Slope up there. South of the Brooks Range, though, mostly VFR, except over toward the eastern border, some marginal VFR and some IFR around Eagle. But marginal VFR, Prince William Sound, on up into the western Copper River Basin. IFR over the southwest mountains there north of Togiak Bay. And marginal VFR into western Cook Inlet. Marginal VFR, Seward Peninsula, and most of the Bering Sea, with IFR spreading back into the Shimiatu area. But VFR for the Fox Islands into the western Alaska Peninsula. IFR there, southern Gulf of Alaska, right into the southeast coast. And for the afternoon forecast, a lot of IFR again covering all of the southeast coast, and looks like more IFR there, Prince William Sound, right up over the eastern Copper River Basin, and possibly there along the Talkeetnas. Otherwise, marginal VFR central eastern Arctic coast, northern Bering Sea. IFR now spreading in over the western Aleutians, but staying west of Adak. Good VFR southeast Bering, Bristol Bay, Alaska Peninsula, and most of the western interior. Then for Saturday morning, some IFR up along the North Slope, marginal VFR for the Arctic coast. IFR St. Lawrence Island to St. Matthew Island, more or less. Otherwise, marginal VFR central Bering Sea on down to Atka, eastward to Unmak Island. Just catching the Pribilofs. VFR there off to the east, all the southwest coast of Nunivak Island, Alaska Peninsula, Bristol Bay. On Alaska Island, all VFR, and Adak westward to the Komodorskis looks VFR, Kodiak Island, VFR, and possible IFR there, northern Cook Inlet, Manuska Valley, maybe the northern Susitna Valley, into northern Prince William Sound, central Copper River Basin, on up into the east central interior areas, and IFR lingering over the southern panhandle, otherwise marginal VFR. And for Saturday afternoon, marginal VFR southeast coast, IFR Prince William Sound, another batch there farther to the north, Tanana Valley on up into the Yukon Flats, but VFR to the west there, Bristol Bay, southwest coast staying VFR, Kodiak Island, right on up across the mid-Yukon River there to the southern slopes of the Brooks Range, Kobuk Valley, northern Koyukuk, VFR. Marginal VFR, North Slope, IFR Eastern Arctic Coast, and then a band of IFR there Bering Strait south across western Seward Peninsula, St. Lawrence Island, on down to Atka Island, eastward to the Fox Islands, VFR, but IFR, VFR from Adak westward again. And moving on to passes, IFR, northern approach of both Anatuvik and Adigan tomorrow, otherwise marginal VFR. Lake Clark and Merrow, marginal VFR to start, becoming VFR probably by noontime or before. Rainy, possibly starting out IFR, but look for conditions to improve. Pretty good throughout the day, becoming VFR for sure. Windy IFR, becoming marginal VFR, maybe VFR. And for Isabel, IFR at times throughout the entire day. Mentasta trending toward marginal VFR, starting out IFR on either approach. And for Tanita, IFR, slowly improving to marginal VFR. And Portage, same trend, lowest conditions in the AM, better in the PM. And Chilkoot and White, IFR to start, marginal VFR to end the day. Freezing levels at the surface, north of St. Lawrence Island, about the Bering Strait, along the southwest coast, Bristol Bay coastline, and then cutting across southern Cook Inlet, and just south of Turnagain Arm, and then just off the North Gulf Coast into the northern Panhandle. Otherwise, about 8,000 feet there across the Panhandle to the Queen Charlotte Islands, 2,000 feet all the way down to the Fox Islands out west. And for the icing, areas of considerable moderate icing, rime icing, North Gulf Coast, northern Panhandle moving in and out, improving into the afternoon there, and another batch of icing, elevated icing potential there from the Bering Strait across St. Lawrence Island into the north central Bering Sea, and then some moisture just clipping the Fox Islands with chance of some isolated moderate rime icing there. And the jet stream, upper level trough with several low centers there over the eastern Bering Sea into the interior, keeping the jet down to the south of mainland Alaska, but cutting still right up across the Panhandle, 85 to 115 knots, and 80 knots out over the Aleutians. 9,000 feet, northerly flow, western Bering Sea, 30 to 40 knots, turns northwest over the western central Aleutians. 25 to 35 knot winds there coming down across Iliamna Lake and the western Alaska Range, south 45 North Gulf Coast, and that leading to moderate chop, Kodiak Island, southern Cook Inlet, eastern North Gulf Coast, Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island.
Hello, Venusian vagabonds. Trace here. Venus, Venus burning bright, the first star you'll see tonight. In ancient times, Venus was thought to be a wandering star because it's the third brightest object that we can see in the sky after the sun and the moon. So bright that you can sometimes spot it even when the sun is up. Hit the darkness at sunset and look southwest. Venus is that bright yellow spot. It's so bright because its dense clouds give it a high albedo. It reflects 70% of the light that hits it from the sun. Venus is similar in size to Earth, but its atmosphere is highly toxic, filled with carbon dioxide, sulfuric acid, and heat trapped by its greenhouse gases. Even though Mercury is closer to the sun, Venus is actually hotter. Maybe someday we'll use solar-powered airships to explore it, but for now, we'll have to keep looking up.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder, and joining me once again is Cindy Preller. She is the Tsunami Program Manager for the National Weather Service in Alaska region. Thanks for joining us again, Cindy.
Thank you, Dave.
We're talking about tsunami awareness and safety here in Alaska especially, and one of the things that has been one of your main focuses is the Tsunami Ready program. What is that, and how do Alaskans find out more?
Awesome. Yeah, Tsunami Ready is a National Weather Service hosted program in partnership with Storm Ready.
Okay.
And it is a program that we conduct with our partners in the state, but it's mostly community driven. So if a community wants to become tsunami ready, well, the first thing they need to do is get a hold of me or their local WCM at a weather forecast office or their tsunami team at the state level.
So, and this is something that's a NOAA grant, so there's money available to help encourage the preparedness at the local level there in the city or the village.
Yeah.
What are some of the places that have done this already?
Oh, our oldest tsunami ready city is Seward,
Good.
you know, but also Sitka, Homer, Valdez are the, the main players, but we've got several tsunami ready communities that I'm very proud of. It takes several years to accomplish this. And so a few of the things that they do is the tsunami risk will be assessed by someone like me or another scientist will help find out, really what their probability is. We'll create an inundation map, an evacuation map. They'll have a mitigation plan. We will set up some partnerships with the schools, make an evacuation shelter, and then they need to practice. But it is the city that owns the program, really. It's up to them. And many cities would like to have sirens, and so we help them get those. And, and they practice. They have to practice.
Sure. So let's say I'm driving into a place like Seward that's tsunami ready. What are some of the things I should look for as maybe a visitor so I know maybe where I need to go or can be more aware of my tsunami risk?
Absolutely. The tsunami ready signage is really blatant. It's this, blue and white curling wave sign, and there's different shapes of signs that'll show you if you are in the hazard zone or where the evacuation routes are and when you're out of shelter.
Okay. So this is a multi-step process that helps the residents be more aware of their own risk, but then also prepare for when that risk arrives.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, many communities sound their sirens daily, some sound them weekly, to make sure everybody knows what they mean. And there's often drills. We have an annual drill once a year. We have Tsunami Awareness Preparedness Week, and that's a good time for each community to do some exercising.
Okay. And is this a program that is unique to Alaska?
Absolutely not. It's national.
Okay.
And all over the country, you'll have the same signage, so it's consistent.
Good. So if I'm taking the kids to California, I should be able to see something familiar.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And, some communities hesitate because they think it'll discourage tourism. And so I would like to tell those communities that what they're actually doing is they're encouraging responsibility.
Sure.
The tsunami's going to happen.
Right.
And it's going to hit every coastline. So, you know, it's not about when, it'll be any time. So the fact that they're showing tourists that they are making steps to be prepared for this, I think would encourage people to want to stay there.
Right, and that would be no different than, say, you or I visiting the Midwest, where we know there's going to be really bad thunderstorms and maybe there's a risk for tornadoes. We're aware of that risk when we go there.
Absolutely. If I see a sign for a tornado shelter, I'm going to remember that.
Right, okay, all right. So we're just doing a better job of being more prepared with something that's bound to happen again.
I hope so.
Okay, very good. Where can people go again to learn more about the Tsunami Ready program here in Alaska?
Well, one, there is a Tsunami Ready website. So, you know, just Tsunami Ready, and
Google
that'll
Tsunami
get you
Ready.
there.
Okay.
And then probably the best person for people to contact is their warning coordination meteorologist at their local weather forecast office, which is Anchorage or Juneau, most likely.
Okay, all right. So most of the folks along the Bering Sea coast, again, are not at a huge risk for tsunamis at this
No,
point.
they don't need to worry about it.
Okay,
Thank
very
you.
good. But always learning to be prepared no matter where you are in Alaska, no matter what the risk, always a good step. And tsunami is a major player in that, as we well know from events like 1964.
Alaskans are resilient. I really believe in them.
Very good, very good. Well, Cindy, thank you so much for joining us again, and please make an effort to learn more about the Tsunami Ready program in your village and town if you haven't already. We'll be back with Cindy again next time to talk more about the Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer, Alaska. We actually have a group of geologists working for the National Weather Service, so scratch your head on that one and we'll join you next time. I'll see you next time on Alaska Weather Packs.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at the coastal water forecast there along the southeast coast. Southwest winds 25 knots. North coast though south at 25. Seas running 15 to 20 feet. And Lynn Canal pretty windy tomorrow. South sustained at 30 knots. Gusts 45 knots. Stevens Passage a little lighter, but still looking at southerly winds gusting to 40 knots, and Clarence Strait sustained southerlies at 20 knots with 7-foot seas. And moving on to Saturday, much lighter winds along the coast, kind of variable there on the south coast at 10 knots, but seas still up around 13 feet, south at 10 on the north coast, 12 to 14-foot seas. And inside waters, looking at south to southeast winds at 15 knots with 3-foot seas. Prince William Sound tomorrow, northwest at 20 with 4-foot seas. Otherwise, small craft advisories for the North Gulf Coast. West winds 30 knots and seas 15 to just under 20 feet at times. Gales continue for the Barren Islands. West winds at 40 knots, seas 15 feet. And Kamishak Bay, west winds 45 knots with 12-foot seas. Otherwise, Cook Inlet, northwesterlies in the forecast of 10 to 15 knots with 3 to 4-foot seas. Those will turn north on Saturday for Cook Inlet. At about 10 to 15 knots, seas around 3 feet or so. Kamishak Bay, winds coming down to 20 knots, still from the northwest. Same forecast for the Barren Islands. North Gulf Coast, western North Gulf Coast, winds will be out of the north at 15 knots. And over toward Middleton Island, looking at south winds at 15 knots. Prince William Sound, northeast breeze at 10 knots, seas down to 2 feet. Kodiak Island, gale warnings on the west side of the island there. For west winds of 35 knots, Shelikof Strait, small craft advisories, west winds 25 knots. Alaska Peninsula, west-northwest winds diminishing to 15 to 20 knots. Bristol Bay, northwest winds at 20 knots with 7-foot seas. And for the day Saturday, Alaska Peninsula, northwest winds 15 to 20 knots, north winds at 15 for Bristol Bay, and from actually Cape Sarachev on up to Sitkinak there, southern Kodiak Island, northwest winds 20 knots. Otherwise, Shelikof Strait, east side of Kodiak, north at 15. Fox Islands, starting with on Alaska Island, variable winds at 10 knots, 5-foot seas. Unmak Island, west winds 15 knots with 5-foot seas. Pretty good out in the Aleutians there, pretty light winds, 15 knots from the western northwest from Atka all the way out to Shemya. Seas running 4 to 7 feet. And for Saturday, small craft advisories for southeast winds 25 knots west of Kiska to Shemya. Otherwise, west at 20 for Amchitka Island. Northwest 20 to 25 knots for the central Aleutians, and small craft advisories for the Fox Islands for northwest winds at 25 for Unmak Island. West 25 for Unalaska Island. Southwest coast, south of Nunivak Island, northwesterlies at 15 knots. South winds 15 knots for the Pribilofs, and west at west at 25. St. Matthew Island, northern Bering Sea, Yukon Delta coast, southwest at 20. And St. Lawrence Island, small craft advisory, south winds 25 knots, seas 7 feet, but north winds at 10 knots for Norton Sound. Then on Saturday, Norton Sound stays light, northeast at 4, northeast at 10 knots, 4-foot seas. St. Lawrence Island south down to 15 knots now, and Yukon Delta coast looking at a southwest wind at 20 knots. Kuskokwim Delta coast northwest at 15. Pribilof Island, small craft advisories, west winds 25 knots, northwest winds at 30 knots there for St. Matthew Island. And up along the Arctic coast, east side there, east winds 15 knots, central coast pretty light, east at 5 knots, 10 knots southeast winds for the west side, and 15 knot winds there for the southeast Chukchi Sea. And for Saturday, from Wales up to Cape Beaufort, north winds at 10 knots, southeast winds at 10 knots for the western Arctic coast, east at 10, central coast, and eastern Beaufort Sea coastline, looking at an east wind at about 15, seas around 5 feet. For tonight, look for flurries and fog and cloudy skies for the Arctic coast into the north slope to about the crest of the Brooks Range, south of the mountains there. Get into some clearing, especially western interior. Low pressure moves into Prince William Sound. Front moves east of the Panhandle, kind of drags across the southern area, so rain will start to diminish and definitely winds will diminish, but winds increase Kodiak Island, western Alaska Range. Winter weather advisories out for the eastern Alaska Range through Friday night for up to 8 inches of snow. And for the day Friday, stays wet over the Panhandle, not so heavy rain for the North Gulf Coast, mixture precipitation eastern interior, sunshine western interior, and the day Saturday, a lot less stormy.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.